Okay, here we are with part 2 of the Makahiki walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with my partner in crime, George.
Hello.
And we didn't really talk too much about what we're going to do this time. We did create this kind of overall agenda for everything. We last time we talked about installation and a little bit about the top level scripts.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this time maybe what we should try to do is spend about 30 minutes and go through the directory structure.
Okay.
The kind of the high level structure of the system, and I guess start looking at code.
Yeah. Maybe take a few examples and describe what the various parts do and stuff like that.
Okay, I think that'd be good. And then coming up, maybe in our next screencast, what I'd like to do is actually go through how you'd edit the about page,
Okay.
and then redeploy it, because actually there are some things I want to change on the about. Like we have to add a new publication, and I've got the video of the recycled fashion design and so forth. So. So we can do that, but then I was thinking maybe for today it'd be better to just keep going on the code.
Okay.
Because that's where I need a lot more help. Okay, so the other thing is that I've been working with IDEs, and I've tried PyDev, which is an Eclipse plugin, and PyCharm. Neither of which really did what. Neither of which have been perfect, but I will comment that the lack of use of IDEs has led to a certain amount of cruft creeping into the code.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of unused things, and I think that we should try to fix that as much as possible.
Sure.
In the next version of the system. So either we'll take a look, we'll find some kind of lint style thing that we can run over the code. I guess that's what we'll try to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then we can make it part of continuous integration. And
right.
So it's always checked whenever things are committed.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. That's kind of the most generic way. Then you're not committed to an particular IDE or whatever. Okay, so I don't know whether it's best. Do we want to try to look through it this way in this window, or should we go to the file system? Maybe we could go to the file system.
Okay.
So as there's this top-level Makahiki directory, and then inside it is a directory also called Makahiki. Mm-hmm. This top-level thing is mainly there for the purposes of
the cloud deployments.
Cloud deployments.
Allows them require this kind of nested strategy, mostly because of the way Python packages are resolved.
Right. Okay.
So that's the main reason.
Yeah. Now I noticed that I've got this SQLite JDBC and Xentis SQLite. Right. Those are droppings from my installation of PyCharm. It's a little unfortunate that they put them there. So you can kind of ignore that. These aren't going to really exist. I'm not going to commit them to Git or anything. Okay, so going into Makahiki, what we can observe is a bunch of Python files, which we went through. These are the settings files. We went through that last time. And then some scripts to do various kinds of either periodic tasks or analysis tasks. We've talked in the past, more recently, that we probably need some kind of generic periodic task runner type thing. Celery came to mind. To do that in a standardized manner rather than using LaunchD or whatever. So that's something we're going to have to, for Makahiki 2, we're going to be dealing with.
Investigating and figuring out exactly what we can do. Right.
So let's just try to let's just go through real quick everything in this top level.
Okay.
So we got these inits. That's just boilerplate, I assume.
Yeah, it's just an empty file that says this is a Python package.
Right. The apps directory is going to be
where all the different Django has this concept of apps for the different modules that you plug into the system. So apps contains pretty much all of the modules of the system.
Okay, that's great. CSS rules.
So this was maybe we can take let's just take a quick look inside of there. We had this idea of like this kind of like dictionary like mapping like for like a CSS ID to like a set of classes. This was like a while ago when we were doing like designs for Makahiki 1.
Okay.
And so the default is like the mapping files that are like so inside of templates there are tags that like look up into this mapping file to figure out like what are the related like IDs or what are the related CSS imports and stuff like that.
I'm going to try and get rid of this stuff for right now. So this is code that we're actually using.
Yes.
And so I see. Okay, so this, just scrolling through here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of like IDs that like we put inside of the templates. And I guess we'll look at the templates later on, but they have like a little tag that says get ID and classes, and then the key names. And so the key name, it looks up here, and then it also adds in the classes.
Okay.
The value part of the dictionary.
I see. So basically, you know, as part of the profile, you'll kind of indirect to some more standardized content, and this is your way of doing that mapping.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so that's the default.py. Let's look at mockup.py. I guess there was a mock-up version of the system at some point, and with an alternative set of mappings.
Right. Oh yeah, this is like with like, what was that called? It was like the
some kind of crazy grid. Yeah, some kind of grid layout. Oh, okay. Okay. So in the do we want to keep this layout of having CSS rules be at the top level, or is there a better is there a better structure that we should be thinking about for the next version?
Don't know. I mean, depending on like the feature organization of apps, it could get kind of buried, and it is, but at the same time, it's useful to have. I don't know.
Yeah, this goes to what's the logical layout of the system. So I guess, you know, again, one of the things that I'm thinking about when I look at this is that we're spanning, these are, essentially this is like a global variable.
Right.
Global variables.
Bad.
You took the word right out of my mouth. But they're bad in a very specific way in that in the next version of the system, we're assuming that things can be added in or, you know, taken out. And so we want to kind of like news should be this kind of self-contained object with everything, you know, that it kind of needs.
Right. So I guess in the future, like each module will have their own set of mapping IDs.
Yeah. I mean, what you could imagine is that there's an object that I'm going to pretend, you know, the CSS rules manager object.
Right.
And then if we need this kind of global data structure, what would then happen would be that our news thing, when it knows that it's instantiated, would actually add to these dictionaries at runtime to say, you know, whatever it needs to know. So
yeah, that makes sense. Like the individual modules should probably be declaring like some of these. Right,
and then the question is kind of what of this stuff it needs to, you know, certainly if the CSS stuff. This will be just an interesting thing. I think will fall out, but clearly, I'm arguing myself into the corner of saying that we don't want this file anymore.
Right.
In the next version, because it's the equivalent of a global variable. And then at a deeper level, the question of whether or not we need this data structure is a question that maybe will fall out of the architecture as we move on. Okay, is that are you okay with that? Did I say any obvious falsehoods? Okay, then we've got this demo directory.
Right. So
tell me about that one.
Back when I was like, I guess we wanted to like, there was this idea that we're going to show this like website to like outside organizations and stuff, and we wanted like a quick way to like set up some competition settings and stuff, like instead of like having the dynamically set or something like what's in the it is like dynamically set, I guess. But it was back in the days where like we wanted to show it off to people, so I had like a little demo flag in settings, and if set to true, it would swap out the default competition settings with this competition settings
Right.
temporarily, just for the sake of demonstration. But I think that's not used much anymore.
I would also claim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would claim that actually this is like a primary function of the new architecture, is to enable multiple slightly different instances.
Right.
And so a demo instance, if we're trying to create something that would work for HPU and UH and East West Center, then a demo is just a fourth kind of example of an instance of the system. And so this would entirely go away just by virtue of the fact that the whole deal with Makahiki 2 is to enable alternative configurations. So I'm also remembering now that I want to make notes. So let me... No, that's not the one. Okay, so this is from Issues for Makahiki 2 from Makahiki Walkthrough Part 2. So the first thing was the CSS rules.
Right.
And we're saying that this is the equivalent of global variables. The dictionary entries must be contributed by individual modules in Makahiki 2. We may or may not even need this data structure in Makahiki 2. This depending on how things get modularized. Then the second thing was the demo directory. So not needed in Makahiki 2 because, well, because. It's obvious. Yeah. It's because Makahiki 2 supports multiple instances without any special, that's what I'm going to say, without any special mechanisms. Okay, then deploy.
So these were provided by Pinax, but the one that is somewhat important is the pinax.wsgi, which is an example file that we use for Apache when we plug it into Apache.
I don't even know what WSGI means.
So WSGI is this handler for Apache that I guess like different applications can like plug into. So we added a plugin to Apache called mod WSGI, which supports Python applications. So this Pinax WSGI is what is run on Apache to set up the environment and stuff like that, instead of going through like manage Pi or whatever.
Okay, so this is all the stuff related to running in production as with Apache as the front end, and then handing off to Python. That's basically what this whole does.
Right.
Now, how does this in our platform, cloud-based platform stuff? Are we assuming we're always going to have Apache front end with Python integrated? Is that part of our core architecture?
No, it's like, I guess I've been toying around with the various cloud platforms so far. I don't have a whole lot of experience with Nginx, I guess is the other another popular service, but a lot of these.
Is that Engine Yard? Is that the same as?
Engine Yard is like another cloud.
Okay, that's different from Nginx. Okay.
Right. So Nginx is another Apache server solution, and so I guess it apparently has a WSGI handler as well, because all of these like tutorials are asking me to have like a certain file called wsgi.py that is very similar to this
Okay.
file. So so yeah, this is not unique to Apache.
Okay. So, and I guess also this, what I'm hearing also is that this is kind of special magic. Like, we got to make one of these buggers to hook Apache and Django together, but after that's done, you know, you don't really never touch it again.
Right.
Now, why is it called? Is there? I noticed you're calling it PinX. And my hope is that there's nothing really about PinX in here. This is really, it could have been Django or, you know.
Right. It's just automatically generated by the PinX. Like when you started the application, they created this deploy folder. And so they had like, they have configuration files for FastCGI, which is the other one. There's a Apache plugin called ModPython, is another.
So could we get rid of, for example, since we're not using PinX root, we could edit out this particular line, for example. But project root, is that a Django concept or a Python concept or a Apache concept? What concept are we?
Right, so that line is saying to add to the path the apps folder that is in the directory. So project root being the current the Makahiki directory.
Okay, and that must be a Django. That's a Django concept. Therefore, if we're talking apps, then okay. Okay, well, not all this. Just looking at doesn't seem like any real big deal. It just looks like special magic to hook them together. And okay, so we'll probably still have deploy, and we'll probably still have deploy at the top level.
Right.
And my only thought is maybe we want to rename it to like WSGI.
Okay.
You know, in a sense, because it's deploy could mean a lot of things.
Right.
Whereas this isn't dealing with all of the deploy stuff. This is just dealing with. Or
I guess,
am I wrong?
Like the other file being, I mean, yeah, we can probably remove ModPython and the fast CGI stuff because we don't use that. But the fourth one, the Apache Django WSGI configuration, that's just like an Apache.
Okay, wait a second. So you're saying ModPython we can get rid of?
Yes, and the PinX.
And the fast. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever's in there.
Right.
Is there something in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So in deploy we could delete ModPython and PinX. Let me just put that in there. Okay, so in deploy can delete ModPython and PinX FastCGI because they existed before the WCGI.
SGI, but yeah.
Yeah. Or they're a different. Because WSGI makes them obsolete.
Right. We're pretty much using WSGI.
Right.
So we can get rid of those.
Okay.
But I guess this directory is also useful for configuration, like the Apache configuration. Like that's the fourth file.
This guy?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at him or her. I don't know what gender you think. What gender you preferred for these. Okay, so this.
So you also need this just like for Apache. Nginx has presumably a different like format for their configuration file. So yeah, this probably shouldn't be a WSGI direct. Maybe it should be like production or something. Like I don't know.
Right.
Some production configuration.
Well, I'm going to still hold fast to my idea that now that we're getting rid of ModPython and PinX FCGI, that maybe we want a directory called WSGI that has Apache Django WSGI and PinX WSGI, and that may be within a folder called deploy.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that, right? I mean, there's nothing special about this folder name, but it just seems to me that this stuff really turns out to be WSGI specific.
Right.
And there may be other things associated with deploy. It's certainly part of the deployment process.
Sure.
But if we have other things that are part of the deployment process, I'm still feeling like having a separate folder that has just the WSGI stuff in it seems like a good thing to do, just to avoid having a lot of random stuff all hooked together. That's my thought. Sure. Okay, then going back out, that was demo, that was deploy. Then
example settings. That was part of the installation process. There were like some local settings.
Right. Okay, right. So that's all good. That seems like, given that the settings have to be at this level.
There has to be a top level, like a settings.py.
At this top level.
Yeah.
Okay. So example, I think that sounds like a good spot for this.
Right.
Then I can't think of any better. And apparently in Python, it's just for us newbies out there, we don't use camel case in Python. We use this underscore thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfectly okay with that. Fabfile.py.example. Now tell me about that one.
Oh, interesting. So we can take a look at it. It is also Python.
Okay, I've got to find it in here because it's not.
It's all at the bottom.
Oh, right. Okay.
So our deployments for Dasha, like I guess it was like, is it like Joel Spolsky or something? Always said like one-click deployment. That was like the goal. So that's what the script does. This is like the one command that runs a bunch of commands on Dasha to tell it to like move folders, like to copy from the staging directory to production.
Nice.
And so that's basically what this is all about. And so you can like give it like host names, and then it'll like log in through SSH and start doing all of these things.
How come you call it Fabfile?
It uses this module called Fabric, and so fabfile.py is the file that it looks for, like when you run the command. So there's like a fab command. You say like.
So this is like a shell script, but it's Python based.
Right.
That's what it's doing. It's
right.
Okay.
And it's doing the SSH stuff to the hosts like in the background.
Oh, okay, so it provides. So Fabric is something that allows you to do a run command and
Right.
all this kind of. That's super groovy. Okay. Fabric, is that just part of regular old Python now?
No, it was one of the modules that were installed in the requirements.
Oh, okay. So now that I understand a little better, so this is the example file.
Right,
and then
a little paranoid about like providing like like the exact like usernames and host names.
Oh, of course.
And directories, so
I see. So then if you wanted to use this, you would edit, for example. How do you know what lines you got to edit in here?
Oh, I should probably mark them better. But yeah, like those folders need to like the.
Sure, that isn't a real directory.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious.
Yeah. The host name is the user at host name is the one that also has.
Is it just basically this stuff right here, or is
Yeah.
there other stuff down in there for? I guess this is still
I don't know why I
bad.
put that there, but other than that, it's pretty much using those.
Okay. So just this will be good for me. So to kind of go through it in a little more detail. So we've got this deploy. Which
deploy was like
just defining what's the hosts,
right.
the hosts, but that's an email address, so I don't
well,
quite
it's like
get
an
that.
SSH thing, right? So it's like like Johnson at something like the server name.
Okay, and then you got to get my password somewhere.
Right, or if you have SSH keys set up, it will just log in automatically.
Okay. So then production is going to say with cd. Oh, I love that. Okay, so we're going to cd the production directory, and inside that directory, we're going to make a folder with a certain name
based on the date.
Good, and then we make it, and then we're going to copy from whatever the staging folder is to this new. This is a production folder. Now, what does this update instance thing mean?
So, Python doesn't have like this idea of like private. Like public or private methods. It's just like by
convention.
It's like things that are preceded by underscores are
okay.
They're not supposed to be used publicly.
But we'll use it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, it's this like I define a method lower and it says update instance.
Oh, this is just down here. Okay, and so this. Oh, I get it. Okay, so update instance is doing what?
So this is what does the heavy lifting more or less. Is this local settings stuff.
Okay, so we got to copy our local settings to the right spot. We've got to get rid of
like the media folders.
Make the media folder correct.
Right, because we use symlinks, so we don't have to you don't create them every single time. So we just remove the
old symlink and put a new one in.
Yeah.
And then we make sure that our requirements are up to date. And then we send out something to the log saying we did this. And we do some more symlinks.
We create a new, there's like a Makahiki directory that the Apache process is looking at. And so we move that symlink from the previous one to this one.
Right.
And then that last one, that touch, is just a quick restart.
Right. Okay. And then evaluation is just basically doing the same thing, except we're going to do it in the evaluation place. All right. I like it. And I suppose this is actually going to be, you see, to me, this sounds like deployment stuff.
Right.
I'm going to just throw that out there. So I would think that if there was a deployment directory, this guy should have been in it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Although having a top level is convenient, though, because then it can kind of look down thing. It's not always seeding up a directory and then across. Or, of course, you do have this nice with CD.
Production.
Yeah, so you don't really have to do relative directory path stuff. And when we go to our cloud-based hosting, do they have Fabric? Are we going to assume that that's, like, can we do this kind of thing in Heroku, or do we need to do this kind of thing in Heroku? Maybe we do something entirely different in Heroku.
Yeah, I think so far Heroku it's very simple to deploy. A Fabric script would be overkill for what they ask you to do, because it's like a Git-based deployment. You just say push to this remote, which is Heroku, and then it does the rest.
Oh, sweet.
So this Fabric is probably overkill, but there might be situations where, I don't know, if we need to scale or something, maybe a Fabric script would be useful.
Okay, so if we go to fabfile.py.example, so may not need this any longer with cloud-based hosting. Yeah, okay.
But very useful for our current setup.
Right. Essential, I would even claim. And in the next screencast, when I update the about file, I bet you I'll be invoking that.
Right. You can invoke that.
I hope to invoke it. We'll see, though. Okay, so then favicon, no worries. Index.html. Do we care? What the heck is that? Why is that there? Oh, this is probably for the README or something like that. Yeah,
this is for the GitHub
pages. Okay. And I guess we're kind of through. So that's it, basically. Wait. Oh, no. Oh, those, somehow we got derailed into that.
Right.
Okay, so. Oh, because this is in different order. Okay, so the next one is fixtures.
Right, so there's just a bunch of old JSON data.
Okay, so if we go here, you know what I could do? I could say go into. So what do we? Tell us about fixtures.
So by default, the system comes empty more or less. So if you want to populate the data with some initial stuff, that's what the JSON files are for. So it's a bunch of things that map to models, and all these things get inserted into the database if you run a certain command.
Okay, so the fixtures is basically the same as test data.
Right.
And
the tests also do use some of these fixtures just for when we need floors for whatever reason. Test.
Okay, so so there's fixtures. Let's see. What do I want to say? There's fixtures that is sample data that we put in there to support testing.
Right.
And then there's creating the default database schemas and rows to support, a running competition. Right. Now, is that stuff, and those are two very different kinds of situations. Is this, tell me about.
So this does not involve, involve like if you're going to create a new competition, you don't need to load fixtures.
Okay, good.
I mean,
So
you
fixtures
start
really
off-
are just test sample
and for
data.
developers who need
Yeah.
some stuff.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Happy to hear that. What did I do? Okay. So that's fixtures. Then I don't really want to go in there anymore. I don't think there's anything interesting. Then we got Jmeter.
Right. So back when we were running Jmeter tests, so there was like a configuration, like there's this way to like set up a proxy in Firefox so you could like record your actions and like dump it to a file like in Jmeter.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's what this like that JMX file is it's the result of me like clicking around
Okay.
and stuff. And so that's the Jmeter configuration file that we use when we were like stress testing the website.
And with respect to Makahiki 2, what's going to become of this?
Well, we probably want to still stress. I guess if we go to cloud, maybe I don't know if we stress test it or not, but
Well, we want to stress, but maybe will we stress test in the same way?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly, I mean, I definitely want to stress test it.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, so Jmeter needs stress testing. Not sure if Jmeter is the way in a pass context. Okay. Then we get to Makahiki. We won't get to Makahiki right now. Then we get to... Oh, wait. Makahiki.
What is that? No idea what that is.
How old is it? Come on. There's a Makahiki inside a Makahiki inside a Makahiki.
I don't know what that would be for even.
Okay, so that might be cruft that somehow got created. You know what that might be? I wonder if when I was, doing my little, setting up these IDEs,
When was the 6? That was like...
Well, the 6 was 5 days ago, so it would have been... Yeah, local settings is January 5th. This was the next day.
Yeah, that looks like a brand new like Django project. That's what it looks like.
I know. I think I created this by mistake.
Okay.
We'll find out. Okay. There should be some way in Git seeing whether it was under Git.
Right. There's probably...
Too late now.
Yeah.
All right, then we go to media.
So it's just CSS images and JavaScript files for the...
So this is CSS for various flavors of layouts.
The idea of themes, right? So.
Right. Images. And then JavaScript. Okay, so we probably want... Do we want media at top level?
Yes, these are not like Python files related, I guess. Like they shouldn't go into apps.
It's almost like a lib directory.
Yeah.
But it's, libraries specific to media. It's a media library. So... Yeah, I think it's fine. I can't think of a reason why it shouldn't be there or why we should do something different. Okay, scripts.
Some utility scripts like the load data scripts, dump data and load data are a way to like dump to fixtures and load fixtures.
Right.
We had some theseplists are launch D scripts for
right.
Things.
Okay, so we'll certainly need scripts.
Yeah.
And we'll need a scripts directory, and these may or may not be exactly what we'll want, but okay, yeah.
Probably like some of the top level scripts weren't going in here too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, what was an example of process notices?
Yeah.
Like that probably should go. So I'll note that. So scripts useful should put some top level scripts in here
Yep.
for Makahiki 2. Okay. Okay, scripts, and then Selenium.
I mean, this was back when one of our older was Nate. I think when we were just coming up with like some initial Selenium tests. This is the folder he created for those Selenium tests. So we don't actually even use them anymore.
Okay.
Since we're not running Selenium at the moment.
So Selenium, obsolete, can get rid of. Okay. And then site media.
So this is where user provided stuff
Oh.
get put into, like, you know, like user avatars and prize images and stuff like that.
Okay. Contains user provided content. Now this is a problem, I think, in the sense that, well, this goes back to the question of should this be in the database?
Right.
And I'm going to say it should. Other people may disagree.
I have to investigate the pros and cons. I'm not sure what they are.
Right. But anyway, that's what that stuff is.
Okay.
Then we get to templates.
So, these are the HTML templates. These are the more like the top level, like the global ones that are shared by the rest of the template. Like the apps also can have their own templates directories, but this is the place for the ones that are like shared amongst like the rest of them.
Okay, so these are the so templates. These are the global. We'll call them global templates.
Right.
As opposed to app-specific templates. And presumably, we certainly need these. We're going to have some. Who knows what they'll really be in Makahiki 2, but we're going to need some global templates.
Right.
I mean, so that's. So the directory seems to make sense. This is a top-level directory, and the actual content, you know, that'll come out in the wash.
Right.
Okay. And that's it.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think this was a nice little screencast. Got through the top-level directory. I'd say, okay, so at this point, really, it was, what's left is apps, I think, right? We went through everything else, so we'll allow our viewers to wait in suspense to hear what happens in the apps folder.
Look at more Python code.
And we'll look at, that'll be heavy-duty Python code, and then maybe we'll go through the apps directory at the next one, and then after that we'll do our use case with updating the about code, because by that time we'll have done hopefully a run-through of all the content. So, all right, George, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next time.